If you are a typical young adult, you spend about 5 hours a day on your phone,
Yeah.
and that equals 15 years of your life. Like 15 years.
It's a staggering amount of time.
It really is. And I really want you to just sit with that math for a second because we need to understand the sheer gravity of it.
Mhm.
We are not talking about 15 years of sleeping. We're not talking about 15 years of, breathing or eating or taking care of your family.
Right, it's entirely different.
We are talking about 15 continuous, uninterrupted years of staring at a glowing rectangle. Just scrolling through feeds, refreshing pages, and feeding your time into an algorithm.
It's a staggering mathematical reality. And when you actually break down the numbers of an average human lifespan, it becomes even more terrifying.
Oh, totally.
Because we have to look at what 15 years actually represents in the context of, a whole human life.
Exactly. Because here is the reality check that completely stopped me in my tracks when we were putting together the notes for this deep dive.
Yeah, the lifespan breakdown.
Let's do the actual math on a human lifespan. Let's say you live to be 80 years old.
Okay.
Right off the top, you subtract 26 years for sleep. Then you subtract the time you are legally obligated to be in school.
Right, which is a big chunk.
And then you subtract the 13 to 15 solid years you'll spend working just to survive.
Well, it's all the maintenance stuff.
Exactly. The commuting, doing laundry, grocery shopping, paying taxes, cooking,
It's
eating.
all of the mandatory, non-negotiable maintenance of simply existing on planet Earth.
Right. Do you know what you are left with after all that? Across your entire 80-year lifespan, you only get about 12 years of absolute unrestricted freedom.
12 years.
12 years where your time is actually entirely your own to do whatever you want with. And yet the math says we are spending 15 years on our screens.
Which means we are operating at a massive, catastrophic deficit.
Yeah.
We are spending more time on our devices than we actually possess in real unrestricted life freedom.
We're literally bankrupting our own existence.
We really are.
Yeah.
We're spending a currency we do not actually have, which means we are actively borrowing it.
Yeah.
Or, well, stealing it, really.
Stealing it from ourselves.
Exactly. From the very core of our lives. We're pulling it from our physical relationships, from our latent potential, from our baseline peace of mind.
So welcome to today's deep dive. I am so glad you are here with us listening to this because today we have a vital mission.
You do.
We are pulling from some incredibly profound frameworks today. Specifically, we're exploring concepts laid out by Jamie Thornberry on the architecture of human perception.
It's brilliant material.
And we're diving deep into the psychology of the digital shadow. Our mission today is to figure out how we are literally deleting our own existence to feed a ghost.
That phrase alone is...
I know, it's intense. We are going to explore the profound hidden psychological cost of curating our digital lives.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, because, we aren't just here to doom spiral about screen time.
No, definitely not.
We are going to learn how to rebuild what the text calls a fixed point. We are going to figure out how to actually reclaim our minds.
And this is where we have to establish a crucial baseline for you listening right now.
Hmm.
What we are talking about today isn't just about screen time in the way we usually discuss it.
Right, it's not a lecture.
Exactly. It isn't a scolding lecture about putting your phone away at the dinner table so you can be more polite to your family. It is infinitely deeper and more systemic than that.
So what are we actually dealing with then?
What we are experiencing right now is a structural insolvency of the soul.
A structural insolvency of the soul. That phrase is just, it's so heavy.
It is.
Because insolvency isn't just like a cash flow problem. In finance, if a company is insolvent, it means the fundamental business model is broken.
Exactly.
The debts far outweigh the assets, and collapse is inevitable. You are bankrupt. Your internal bank account is completely empty.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
So how exactly are we doing this? How did we get to a place where we are handing over 15 years of our lives to a piece of glass?
Well, to understand that, we have to look at how we are literally fracturing our own identities right down the middle.
Okay, let's get into that.
Yes. And to understand this fracture, we have to trace the psychology back to Carl Jung.
Right, the psychologist.
Yes. Long before the internet, smartphones, or, social media ever existed, Jung made a profound observation about human nature. He observed that humans are, at our core, deeply terrified to fully be ourselves.
Wait, really? We're afraid of being ourselves.
We are afraid of our own totality.
Why are we so afraid of our own totality? Like, what is so scary about just being a person?
Because to be your full, total self means accepting the parts of you that are unacceptable to the tribe.
Oh, I see.
From an evolutionary standpoint, if the tribe rejected you, you died. You didn't survive on your own.
You'd freeze or starve.
Exactly. So we are biologically wired to hide our flaws, our ugly thoughts, our selfish impulses, our failures.
Even just the boring stuff, right?
Yes, even just our profound, unglamorous mediocrity on a random Tuesday. Jung realized that as a defense mechanism, we divide our personality into two distinct halves.
The conscious and the unconscious.
Right. The conscious is the curated self. It is the person you present to the world to ensure you are loved or, at least tolerated.
And the unconscious.
Yeah, unconscious, what Jung called the shadow, is the dumping ground for everything else. Everything you deem unacceptable gets repressed into the dark.
Right, so the conscious part is the shiny part. It's the manicured front lawn, and the shadow is the messy garage where you hide all the junk you don't want the neighbors to see.
Precisely. Now, fast forward to the digital age.
Oh, boy.
We have taken this basic psychological defense mechanism and weaponized it against ourselves on an industrial scale.
Oh, so?
Well, we take only the most acceptable, highly optimized bits and pieces of our lives. The beautifully lit vacation photos, the major career milestones.
The perfectly articulated political opinions.
Yes, all those curated aesthetic moments. And we use them to build a conscious ideal image online. This is the digital avatar.
The ghost.
This is the ghost we are feeding our 15 years to.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where the concept of the profile shadow gap comes into play from our sources.
Right.
If I am pouring all my energy, all my 15 years of screen time into building this perfect, conscious, digital ideal, what is physically and psychologically happening to the rest of me?
Doesn't just disappear.
Right. What happens to the Tuesday morning where I spill coffee on my shirt, miss a deadline, and feel like a total unmitigated failure?
Well, the human brain doesn't just delete those moments because you didn't post them on Instagram.
Yeah, unfortunately.
The law of psychological conservation means that energy has to go somewhere. The more effort you pour into this conscious digital ideal, the more aggressively you must forcibly repress your actual unedited reality into the shadow.
So it takes actual energy to keep that stuff hidden.
Immense energy. Your failures, your awkwardness, your profound boredom, all of that gets shoved into the dark with increasing force.
Wow.
You are essentially standing in front of your own psyche, pointing at your very real human experiences and saying, these parts of me are unacceptable. They do not fit the brand. Therefore, they do not deserve to exist.
And that creates the gap.
It creates a massive chasm. The wider that profile shadow gap gets, the more flawless your profile becomes and the more repressed your shadow becomes.
How does it feel?
The more psychologically fractured you are. The cognitive dissonance of knowing how messy you are on the inside while constantly projecting perfection on the outside, it requires exhausting psychological labor to maintain.
Which brings up this incredible analogy I was reading in our notes for today. The mathematician.
Well, that's a great one.
I want to walk you through this.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a guy who desperately, intensely wants to be recognized as a mathematician.
Okay.
In his own head, he has convinced himself that he is an absolute, unparalleled math genius. He has built this entire internal identity around it.
Right. But here is the catch. He refuses to ever join a math club. He refuses to take a standardized math test.
He won't enroll in a university program.
Exactly. He won't enter a competition.
Because the hypothetical is safe.
Exactly. He is terrified that if he actually sits down and does the math in front of other human beings, his actual skills will be quantified.
The illusion might shatter.
Right. He might only be average. He might even be terrible at it. So he avoids actuality completely. He fails in actuality. Like he never becomes a working mathematician, but he succeeds wildly in his own fantasy.
Yes.
He gets to walk around feeling like an unacknowledged genius, perfectly safe from the harsh, stinging reality of failure.
It's a powerful defense mechanism.
So my question for you is, how does living in these mere hypotheticals, curating this perfect Instagram grid, this flawless LinkedIn professional persona,
How does that affect us?
yeah, how does that actually guarantee a miserable, unedited life for the listener?
If we look at the mechanics of what is happening there, we see the parasitic nature of the digital persona. Parasitic.
Yes. When you live in the hypothetical, your conscious digital persona stops being a representation of you, and it becomes a parasite on you.
Wait, a parasite? How?
Well, Unless you integrate your shadow, meaning
Right.
unless you consciously accept and acknowledge your flaws, your boredom, and your messy reality as valid, necessary parts of your existence,
You stay fractured.
you remain an incomplete, fractured person. You start living your real life merely as a staging ground, a movie set for your digital life.
The tail wags the dog.
Exactly. Think about the physiological reality of going to a beautiful restaurant nowadays.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
You don't go to taste the complex flavors of the food or to look your partner in the eye and connect.
You go to photograph the plate.
You photograph the plate so the avatar can consume it. The avatar gets the experience of the luxury meal.
And what do you get?
You, the physical human, just get the cortisol spike and the anxiety of trying to capture it perfectly before the lighting changes.
That is wow.
You are hollowed out. You are literally deleting your own visceral physical existence to feed the ghost.
That is deeply unsettling when you frame it like that. The avatar eats the meal, the avatar goes on the breathtaking vacation, the avatar gets the promotion and the applause.
Yeah.
And you, the actual biological human being sitting on the couch in sweatpants, are just the underpaid, exhausted intern managing the avatar's PR firm.
And the tragedy is the intern is miserable.
So miserable.
The intern is experiencing all the stress, all the comparison, all the late nights, but receiving none of the actual nourishment.
Right, because the avatar gets the likes.
The intern is spending 15 years of their limited human lifespan working for a boss that does not actually exist in the physical universe.
Wow. Okay, so if building this ideal digital image makes us so fractured, so exhausted, and so completely miserable, why on earth is everyone doing it?
That's the big question.
Why is this a universal global phenomenon? If it hurts, why do we keep touching the hot stove? I mean, we have to look at the tectonic societal shift in how we fundamentally define human worth.
Yes. To understand the why, we have to look at the philosophical and sociological bedrock of our modern society.
Which has shifted dramatically.
In just a few generations. For centuries, human societies, despite all their other flaws, largely operated on a baseline concept of inherent dignity.
Meaning your worth was baked in from day one.
Yes. Whether a society derived that from a theological perspective, the idea of being made in the image of a creator,
Or a more secular view.
or a philosophical humanist perspective during the Enlightenment, the baseline assumption was the same. You have value simply because you are a human being.
It was a given.
Your worth was a given. It was an unshakable foundational floor beneath your feet.
Okay, so you could be a complete mess and still have worth.
Exactly. You might be a terrible baker or a failed merchant or a grumpy neighbor, but your fundamental right to exist and have dignity was not up for debate.
You didn't have to earn the right to exist. You didn't have to launch a personal brand just to justify taking up space.
Exactly. But in the modern era, we have undergone a profound, almost invisible shift away from inherent dignity towards a philosophy of radical autonomy.
Radical autonomy.
Now, radical autonomy sounds incredibly empowering on the surface. It is the core ethos of modern individualism.
Like, you can be whatever you want.
It is the belief that you are a completely blank slate, totally free from historical, familial, or religious constraints. You can define yourself however you choose. You can be anyone.
Which sounds great until you realize the terrifying flip side of that coin.
The dark underbelly of radical autonomy is that if your value isn't built in, if you don't have that unshakable floor beneath you, then your value is something you must constantly, relentlessly, exhaustingly prove.
Oh, man.
If you are a self-made creation, then you are entirely responsible for the success or failure of that creation.
So it's all on you.
You have to prove your worth every single day through your choices, your aesthetic, your career trajectory, your performative activism, and your public presentation.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if my value isn't a given, if I have to prove it from scratch every single morning when I wake up, then my entire identity is built on evaluation.
Right.
I am only as good as my last performance. I am only as valuable as the reaction I get from the crowd.
It's exhausting.
So I have to ask you, taking this to the logical extreme for the listener right now.
Okay.
If my identity is completely based on evaluation, what happens to my actual nervous system when those evaluations are outsourced to a digital algorithm?
It creates a state of perpetual chronic physiological anxiety.
I feel anxious just thinking about it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of neuroscience, Think about what you're actually doing to your brain.
What are we doing?
You are taking the most precious, fragile thing you possess, your sense of self, your fundamental human worth, and you are handing it over to a machine learning algorithm.
An algorithm designed to keep us hooked.
That was specifically designed by engineers to monetize your insecurity. An identity built on evaluation is inherently fragile. It is a house built on shifting sands.
So your self-worth is literally tied to metrics.
Your dopamine and serotonin levels rise with every like, every share, every positive comment. But they utterly crash with every scroll past, every ignored post, every moment of digital silence.
It's a physiological roller coaster that never stops. You are strapping your self-esteem into a machine that you do not control.
And that lack of control is the key to the anxiety. When your worth was inherent, you had a fixed point internally.
Right.
The world could be chaotic, but your core was safe. When your worth is evaluative and algorithmic, your center of gravity is entirely externalized.
We're just blowing in the wind.
You are completely at the mercy of the digital crowd. And the crowd is fickle, the algorithm is famously opaque and constantly updating, and the metrics for success are always changing.
You can't win.
It is biologically impossible to feel secure when the foundation of your identity is constantly shifting beneath your feet based on a mathematical formula you aren't even allowed to see.
That is so true.
This isn't just a philosophical problem. This is why we see such skyrocketing rates of clinical anxiety and depression. We are trying to build solid, resilient human lives on a foundation of shifting, algorithmic sand. It cannot hold.
So we have this psychological fracture, the conscious profile and the repressed shadow.
Yes.
And we have this brutal anxiety-inducing societal framework where we traded the safety of inherent dignity for the exhausting treadmill of constant algorithmic evaluation.
It's a rough combination.
It paints a pretty bleak picture, but I can hear the listener pushing back right now. I can hear them saying, okay, I get it. The system is rigged. It's bad for me. It makes me anxious. So I'll just put the phone down.
Right, the free will argument.
Yeah, they're saying, I have free will. I'm a smart person. I'll just turn it off.
If only.
But we know it is not that simple because our biology is literally being weaponized against us. We aren't just fighting bad habits. We are fighting millions of years of evolution.
That is a crucial distinction that most people miss. We often treat our inability to put the phone down as a moral failing.
Like we're just lazy or lack discipline.
A lack of willpower or a character flaw. But that is a profound misunderstanding of the battlefield. You are not fighting a fair fight.
No, not at all.
You are bringing a knife to a nuclear war. The creators of these platforms, the architects of this digital landscape, deeply understand human biology, neuroscience, and evolutionary psychology.
They know exactly what they're doing.
They have mapped the human brain, and they are using that knowledge to bypass your conscious will entirely.
They are hacking the system. They are going straight for the brainstem.
They are using what evolutionary biologists call supernormal stimuli.
Supernormal stimuli.
Throughout our evolutionary history, our brains developed to seek out novelty, finding new information, identifying new resources, making new social connections.
That was how we survived, right?
Yes, these were essential survival traits. When our hunter-gatherer ancestors found something new and useful, the brain rewarded them with a hit of dopamine, a neurochemical that basically says, that was good, remember how you did that, and do it again.
Right. But in the natural world, novelty was scarce. It took immense physical effort to find.
Exactly. The effort-to-reward ratio was balanced.
Like you had to walk 10 miles across the savannah to find a new berry bush, or risk your life to meet a new tribe. You didn't just get dopamine for free.
Right. But a social media feed is a supernormal stimulus. It provides an endless, frictionless, infinite scroll of high-definition novelty.
Just constant hits.
It is a concentrated, weaponized, artificial dose of dopamine that our evolutionary biology has absolutely no natural defense against.
It just overloads the system.
It hijacks the system. When you are scrolling at 11:00 p.m., you aren't actively, consciously choosing to scroll.
You're just stuck in the loop.
Your primitive brain is compulsively pulling the lever on a slot machine, desperate for the next hit of variable reward, while your conscious, rational mind sits helplessly in the passenger seat, wondering why you can't just go to sleep.
This brings up one of the most vivid, terrifying analogies from our research, and I want to set this up for you listening because it perfectly illustrates the biological hijack.
The bee analogy.
The story of Bertha the bee. Think about a honeybee. Bertha has a stinger. Evolutionarily speaking, that stinger is a masterpiece of biological engineering.
It really is.
For millions of years, if a predator, like a bear or a badger, attacked the hive, Bertha would fly out and sting it. The stinger would pierce the thick animal hide, deliver the venom, drive the predator away, and then Bertha could retract the stinger and survive.
A perfect defense mechanism.
It was a perfect biological mechanism designed to protect her in her natural environment. But then the environment changed. Humans invented the modern beekeeper's suit. The fabric of the suit is fundamentally different from animal hide. It's a synthetic mesh. Now, when Bertha perceives a threat and uses her perfectly evolved stinger on the beekeeper's suit, the barbs on the stinger get caught in the unnatural mesh.
And she can't get loose.
Right. And when she tries to fly away, her stinger is ripped from her abdomen. She literally dismembers herself.
It's tragic.
The very biological mechanism that was designed to protect her in her natural environment is the exact thing that kills her in this new artificial environment.
It is a devastatingly accurate metaphor for what is happening to the human brain.
So I have to ask, are we just like Bertha? Are we biologically wired to dismember our own time and our own minds? Because our dopamine system, our desire for social validation was meant to save us. It kept us safe in the tribe. But in this new digital mesh environment, is it just tearing us apart?
Tragically, yes.
Yeah.
We are exactly like Bertha. Our dopamine system, our deep-seated desire for connection, our visceral fear of social exclusion.
All the tribal stuff.
These were all brilliant survival mechanisms in a tribal hunter-gatherer environment. They kept us alive.
Yeah.
But we have built an artificial, hyper-connected digital environment that completely exploits those mechanisms.
It's a mesh suit.
These exact same impulses now cause us to dismember our own time, our attention spans, and our peace of mind. We feel a tiny flicker of boredom or a micro moment of social anxiety, and our biology screams at us to fix it immediately, to seek connection, to find the safety of the tribe.
And the glowing rectangle is right there in our pocket, the false solution, the synthetic mesh.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of human development, we can see the vicious cycle clearly. You feel that tiny flicker of boredom.
Yeah.
Historically, boredom was a signal that you needed to engage with your environment. You would have to sit with that boredom, look around and invent a game, or tell a story, or fix a tool.
You had to actually do something.
But now, your biology urges you to reach for amusement via the screen. You get the quick hit of supernormal stimuli, the dopamine spike, and the boredom vanishes. But by doing this, by reaching for the pacifier every single time you feel a moment of mental friction, you skip a crucial, absolutely vital psychological step.
Which is?
The step of meaning formation.
Let's pause on that phrase because it feels central to everything. Meaning formation. What exactly is happening in the brain during that process, and what are we destroying when we reach for the phone instead of sitting with the friction?
Meaning formation is the heavy psychological work of synthesizing your life experiences. It is the invisible labor that happens when you stare out a window on a train, or when you are folding laundry in silence, or taking a walk without a podcast playing.
Those quiet moments.
During those moments of low external stimulation, your brain takes the disparate, chaotic events of your day. You know, the conversation you had with your boss, the article you read, the strange emotion you felt when you woke up.
And what does it do with them?
It weaves them together into a coherent narrative. It connects the dots. It figures out what actually matters to you. It builds your internal identity. When you immediately flood your brain with external, algorithmically generated amusement, the absolute second you feel an ounce of mental space, you violently interrupt that process.
You don't even let it start.
You never allow your own narrative to form. You become a passive, bloated consumer of other people's narratives instead of the author of your own. You are skipping the very neurological process that builds a resilient, independent, interesting human being.
You are dismembering your own ability to make meaning out of your life, just like Bertha.
Exactly.
That is incredibly intense. Okay, so we have fully diagnosed the disease here, and it is a brutal diagnosis.
It is.
We're dealing with severe psychological fracturing through the creation of the digital shadow. We are suffering from this intense evaluation anxiety because of our societal shift toward radical autonomy.
Right.
And our very biology, our dopamine system, is being hijacked by supernormal stimuli, causing us to actively dismember our own time and avoid meaning formation. It is a bleak, dystopian landscape.
Very bleak.
But we promised the listener we aren't just going to doom spiral.
Right, there is a way out.
The frameworks we are exploring don't leave us stranded here in the dark. They offer a way out. They outline a blueprint for a cure, a way to rebuild that fixed point in the midst of this shifting chaos.
Yes. The beauty of understanding the mechanics of the trap is that it reveals how to dismantle it.
That makes sense.
The framework provides a deeply philosophical and highly practical method for reclaiming our minds, built upon three metaphysical pillars.
The three pillars.
The first pillar we must construct is light.
Light. Okay. When I first read that in the notes, I'll admit it sounded a bit abstract, a bit mystical.
It can sound that way, yes.
But the concept defines light specifically as the principle of truth. It's about seeing things exactly as they are. And the primary tool we use to harness this light is something called metacognition.
Yes, metacognition.
Now, I know metacognition literally translates to thinking about your own thinking, but how does that actually work in practice? What does it look like in the real world?
Metacognition is the ability to step outside of your immediate reactionary self and observe your own mental processes as if you were a third party.
Like watching yourself think.
Exactly. It is the deliberate activation of the observer mode in your brain, specifically engaging the prefrontal cortex to override the primitive limbic system.
Okay. Can you give an example?
Think about it this way. Most of us live our digital lives entirely on autopilot. A notification buzzes in your pocket, and your hand reaches for it, unlocks the screen, and opens the app before your conscious mind has even registered the thought, I should check my phone.
It's pure reflex.
There is zero friction between the stimulus and the response.
Yeah.
You are operating as a biological automaton reacting to a programmed cue.
So what does this actually mean for the listener right now? Literally, the person listening to this deep dive who probably has their phone in their pocket or sitting on the desk next to them.
Right.
How do they actually use this light? What is the actionable prompt here to break the automaton loop?
The actionable prompt is to create a gap. The next time that notification buzzes, or the next time you feel that phantom localized itch in your brain to open an app while you're waiting in line at the grocery store, you must intentionally pause.
Just pause.
You do not have to throw the phone in the river. You just have to wait 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
In those 3 seconds, you activate the observer. You shine the light of truth on the moment. You ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now in my body? Am I opening this app because I need specific information? Or am I just feeling a flicker of social anxiety or loneliness or boredom that I am desperately trying to soothe with a digital pacifier?
It's about inserting friction back into a frictionless system.
Yes.
The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl had that famous concept. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our freedom and our power to choose our response.
Precisely. That tiny 3-second gap between the buzz and the reaction, that is where your true freedom lies.
In the gap.
In that gap, you reclaim your agency. You step out of the biological hijack and you sit back down in the driver's seat of your own consciousness. And when you do this consistently, when you force yourself to observe your own compulsive behaviors, you force a massive cognitive shift.
What is that cognitive shift? How does it change the way we view the digital shadow we talked about earlier?
You stop treating the digital persona as a sacred, load-bearing pillar of your identity.
Oh, wow.
This is the ultimate truth that the principle of light reveals. When you observe your actions, you realize that your avatar, your profile, your entire curated digital footprint, none of it is actually real.
It's just pixels.
It is not a vital organ. It is a tool. It is a synthetic construct. And like any tool, like a hammer or a wrench, it can be utilized when necessary, it can be updated, or it can be completely discarded at will without damaging your actual eternal soul.
What loses its grip on you.
When you view it in the clear, harsh light of truth, the digital ghost completely loses its power over you. It stops being a parasite and goes back to being just a piece of software.
Okay, I love that. The gap is where the freedom is. Depersonalize the tool.
Yes.
So you use metacognition, you create that 3-second gap, you successfully stop the automatic reaction to pull out the phone, but now you have a completely new problem.
Right, the empty time.
You are standing there in the grocery store line, you haven't checked your phone, and you suddenly have empty space. You have unmedicated time, and it feels deeply uncomfortable. What do you do with it?
That is the hard part.
This brings us to the second pillar of the cure, life. Once you've created that gap and stopped reacting, you have to intentionally fill that space with life. And ironically, to truly experience life, the very first step is intentionally choosing to be bored.
Yes, this is where the work gets highly practical and physically uncomfortable.
Because boredom hurts.
The framework introduces Pillar 2, and specifically a concept called the boredom protocol. To prioritize actual life over mere algorithmic amusement, the listener must intentionally, deliberately reintroduce small windows of low stimulation into their daily routine. You have to court boredom.
Okay, I am going to push back hard here on behalf of the listener, especially the hyper-productive modern listener.
Yeah.
Because, let's be honest, no one likes being bored. Boredom feels awful. It feels like a waste of time. If I have 10 free minutes waiting for a meeting to start, why shouldn't I be answering emails or reading the news or even doing something educational?
That's the optimization trap.
Why on earth would I intentionally trigger what the psychological literature literally refers to as neurological withdrawal? Why is doing absolutely nothing better than being productive?
That pushback is entirely natural because society has conditioned us to view any unoptimized moment as a failure.
Exactly.
But what's fascinating here is what happens on a deep neurological level when you endure that withdrawal. Because you are absolutely right. It will feel exactly like a drug withdrawal.
Just jittery and anxious.
When you first institute the boredom protocol, say, you decide to sit on your porch for 10 minutes with no phone, no music, no book, just existing and looking at the trees.
Pure agony.
Your brain, which is heavily addicted to the supernormal stimuli of the feed, will panic. You will feel physically restless, irritable, perhaps even a spike of anxiety.
Your brain is screaming for dopamine.
Your brain will scream at you to do something, anything, to get a hit of dopamine. But if you can endure that discomfort, if you can white-knuckle your way through that initial wall of neurological withdrawal, you cross a critical threshold.
What happens then?
You activate a deeply important, highly sophisticated neural network in the brain called the default mode network.
The default mode network. This is the meaning-making engine we were talking about earlier, right?
The synthesizer? Exactly. The default mode network, or DMN, is a massive web of interacting brain regions that becomes highly active when you are awake, but not intensely focused on the outside world.
So when you're just spacing out.
It turns on when you are daydreaming, recalling distant memories, envisioning future scenarios, or simply letting your mind wander without an agenda. It is your brain's internal meaning-making engine. It is the crucible where your sense of self is forged.
And if we are constantly scrolling, constantly listening to audio, constantly answering emails, this engine just stalls out.
It never even gets the chance to turn on. If your attention is constantly, relentlessly tethered to external amusement or external productivity, the default mode network is actively suppressed. It stays dormant.
That's terrifying.
You are starving the most important part of your brain.
Yeah.
But when you allow yourself to be bored, when you completely remove the external input and sit with the friction, this network fires up.
And that's where the magic happens.
And this is where the actual magic of human cognition happens. This is the network that generates creative, lateral solutions to complex problems you've been stuck on.
Like shower thoughts.
Exactly. It is the network that quietly processes emotional trauma and grief. It is the network that synthesizes your chaotic daily experiences and, crucially, builds a stable, highly resilient internal sense of self that is not reliant on external social media metrics. The boredom protocol isn't about torturing yourself for no reason. It is about creating the mandatory neurological space necessary for your actual, authentic identity to consolidate and grow.
That completely flips the script on how we view boredom. We treat boredom like it's a terrifying void that needs to be filled with content as quickly as possible.
Avoid to avoid.
Exactly. But what we are learning is that boredom isn't a void at all. It's an incubator.
Yeah.
It's the rich soil where your actual self grows. If you never let the soil rest, if you are constantly tilling it and planting new seeds every 5 seconds, nothing can ever take root.
You'd say so.
You are just constantly pouring neon-colored digital fertilizer on barren ground, wondering why nothing is growing.
That is a wonderful analogy. The soil must rest to be fertile. And that realization leads us perfectly to the final pillar.
Right, the third one.
Because once you have reclaimed your mind with light, seeing the tool for what it is, and once you have restarted your internal engine with life, enduring boredom to let your sense of self take root, you have to anchor that newly formed self into the physical world.
Anchor it.
If you don't anchor it, it will just float away again. You have to stabilize it. And this brings us to pillar 3. Love.
Now, to be clear for the listener, When we use the word love in this specific philosophical context, we aren't talking about romance or warm, fuzzy feelings.
No, not at all.
The framework defines love here as relational coherence. It refers to it as the grammar of responsibility, which I admit sounds very academic and dense, but I know it has a deeply practical, profound application for how we live.
It does. Relational coherence simply means that the different disparate parts of your life actually align with one another in physical reality.
How so?
It means that your internal values, your spoken words, and your digital presence are anchored entirely in what you actually do with your physical body in the physical world.
Okay, so it's about congruence.
It is the ultimate antidote to the profile shadow gap. It is about closing the chasm between what you project and what you are.
Let me challenge this, because we constantly hear a very different narrative from Silicon Valley, from tech companies, and from modern cultural commentators.
Oh, absolutely.
We are constantly told that having a million digital options, like having the ability to be anyone you want online, to anonymously join any community, to seamlessly curate any aesthetic, to live anywhere virtually.
The limitless optionality narrative.
Yes, we are told that this limitless optionality is the ultimate expression of human freedom. How does the concept of relational coherence argue the exact opposite? Why is having endless options actually a trap?
Because limitless optionality, without physical, tangible grounding, is not freedom, it is weightlessness.
Weightlessness.
And weightlessness, while it sounds fun in theory, is actually terrifying and paralyzing. Think about an astronaut floating in the vacuum of space during a spacewalk, untethered from the ship.
That's a scary thought.
In a zero-gravity environment, you have limitless optionality. You can spin in any direction, you can point yourself anywhere, but you can't actually go anywhere because you have absolutely nothing to push off against.
There is no friction.
True, functional freedom requires solid ground under your feet. It requires gravity.
The fixed point, the thing that holds you steady so you can actually move forward.
Precisely. Relational coherence, this pillar of love, is the solid ground. It is the gravity. It means you stop living in the endless, friction-free realm of digital hypotheticals.
You stop being that mathematician.
You stop being the hypothetical mathematician who only dreams of math in the safety of his bedroom. You finally join the club.
Yeah.
Sit down in a chair and take the test.
You face actuality.
You ensure that your identity is inextricably tied to your physical actions, your real-world relationships, your local community, and your tangible, messy responsibilities to the human beings directly around you.
You actually engage.
You look people in the eye.
Yeah.
You help a neighbor. You do the hard, unglamorous work. When you do this, when you accept the gravity of real life, you experience the death of the hypothetical self and the magnificent birth of actuality.
It makes it real.
You become a real person. And suddenly, the agonizing anxiety of algorithmic evaluation fades away because your worth is no longer theoretical, is no longer abstract.
It's grounded.
It is firmly grounded in your lived physical reality and the tangible love you provide to the world.
It is the death of the ghost we've been feeding. We finally stop feeding the ghost, and we start feeding ourselves. We've covered an immense, profound amount of ground today.
We really have.
We started by confronting the terrifying math of 15 lost years and the structural insolvency of the soul. We unpacked the Jungian trap of the digital shadow, exploring how we violently fracture ourselves to build a perfect conscious profile while repressing our messy reality.
Right.
We dug into the tectonic societal shift from the unshakable floor of inherent dignity to the shifting, anxiety-inducing sands of radical autonomy and algorithmic evaluation.
Our fragile identity.
We diagnosed the biological hijack, understanding how supernormal stimuli turn us all into birth of the bee, dismembering our own time and bypassing the crucial work of meaning formation.
A vicious cycle.
And finally, we laid out the cure. Rebuilding the fixed point through light, life, and love. Through the friction of metacognition, the uncomfortable incubator of the boredom protocol, and the solid ground of relational coherence.
It is a comprehensive diagnosis of the modern condition and a highly robust, actionable prescription for reclaiming human agency in an age designed to strip it away. It is hard work, but it is the only work that matters.
So, bring this all home directly to you, the listener. The material we've explored today leaves us with an ultimate challenge, a mandate, really. It tells us to guard the center.
Guard the center.
And I want to ask you the critical defining question, and I really want you to sit with this the next time you feel that phantom itch to reach for your phone.
It's the most important question.
What would actually change in your daily life and your baseline peace of mind if you decided right now that your heart, your internal world, and your physical actuality were your absolute number one priorities, rather than your external reputation or your highly curated digital brand?
That is the pivotal question of our era, because you, the listener, are a pioneer.
We all are right now.
We are the very first generations in human history to navigate this hyper-connected, algorithmically driven digital landscape. There are no historical maps for this.
We're literally making it up as we go.
We're drawing them right now, in real time. And your influence, your personal legacy, is being written every single day in the digital ink of your daily habits.
Every single choice matters.
Every single time you pause for 3 seconds, every time you choose to endure boredom instead of seeking cheap amusement, every time you choose actuality over the safety of the hypothetical, you're charting a healthier course for yourself and everyone around you.
You're breaking the cycle.
You must choose to be a flourishing civilization rather than a mere optimization project. You are a complex, deeply valuable human being, not an algorithm to be tweaked for maximum engagement. Life is simply too short, and your 12 years of freedom are too precious to be world-class at scrolling.
It really is a flourishing civilization, not an optimization project. I love that so much. And I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to mull over as you go about your day. We talked deeply about Carl Jung in the shadow today. We talked about how your digital shadow is formed by all the parts of yourself that you have actively repressed, the parts you deemed unacceptable, unpostable, or too boring for the feed.
The messy garage.
All right. So I ask you this. If your digital shadow is formed by the parts of yourself you've hidden away, what incredible latent talents, what genuine human connections, or what profound life changes are currently hiding in your boredom, just waiting for you to put down the phone, endure the withdrawal, and finally invite them into the light?